to go. Princess Busting.
Hey! You looking for...
Things are really heating up in the race for mayor. We're just days away from going to the polls.
Which is actually the reason for this weekend's celebration, the Tricentennial.
A town festival with a mass killer running around.
Whoever it is just getting showy. That's how these guys start to trip up.
I know there's a lot of speculation. I know there's a lot of rumors going around.
What happened that night?
Let's all stay close to home. Don't let your children out. Stay safe.
Show starts in 1 minute.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a...
Many of you have asked why we are moving ahead with today's festivities in light of the recent tragedy. In these especially difficult times, Founders Day...
Don't you dare lecture me about Founders Day.
Just give us a little time.
5 people are dead.
Get away from him right now! Right now! He's dangerous!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, mayoral candidates. And after watching this week's movie, I can officially say I hate all of you. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Another work week getting started, which usually means fresh cuts at the end of the day, which sometimes means it's going to be a good discussion. Other times, we watched a movie like this. So, also with us, it's Don and Nelly. What's up, Don?
How about hating a person that's not even registered to vote? What's going on?
All right. Well, if those clues didn't tip you off, I wouldn't be surprised because this movie, I think, was like barely mentioned, advertised, anything. I think the only
after
reason
watching it, I
knew
wonder
about
why.
Yeah, I want to say the only reason I knew about it was because maybe I got a trailer for it from some other movie, but other than that, yeah, because I have heard nobody really talking about it. I posted that I was watching on Instagram, and I had a lot of people message me like, "What is this?" and "How was it?" And I hate. Okay, I don't want to get into my thoughts on the movie yet, I guess, but I don't like telling people like too much of my thoughts ahead of time because, you know, there's people that might like or not like a movie that I have the opposite feelings on, and I want to encourage people to always go to the theater to see stuff, but yeah, I don't know. That's probably not even really containing what I thought about the movie very well, but let's just get into it. We are covering Founders Day that released this past Friday. If you have a question mark above your head, I understand because, like I said, I don't think the movie was really advertised that well, but maybe for good reason, maybe not. We'll see. It's labeled as a comedy, horror, mystery on IMDb in that order. A small town is shaken. A small town is shaken by a series of ominous killings in the days leading up to a heated mayoral election. All right, so we will start with our general thoughts as usual. So, Venom, why don't you whip out that big bag of praise for Founders Day? Or not? What did you think of the movie?
Oh man, I can't believe I'm dusting this one off so early in 2024. Yeah, fuck this movie. Holy shit, this movie is awful. Um, I don't even know where to start with this movie. This story is atrocious. The acting is awful. The cinematography is garbage. The sound design is bad. The direction is bad. The kills, there's one kill that's on screen that's a fairly brutal kill, and it's ruined by CG blood. It's like literally the only good kill in the movie, and it's just ruined by CG blood and like slice effects, like wounds, knife wounds. Holy shit. I have never felt so little for a woman who just had her daughter murdered than I felt in this movie. I literally laughed out loud when the mayor started crying about her daughter being murdered. It was so fucking stupid. It was the worst fake crying I've ever seen. There are two bullies in this movie. I call them Machine Gun Kelly Jr. and Megan Fox III because holy fuck. Probably some of the worst acting in the film is these two bullies. And I literally just want to see these idiots get sliced in half, and they survive way longer in the movie than I would have guessed. Oh man, where else can I go with this? If Hallmark made a horror movie, I think this would be it. Other than the one brutal kill that I just talked about, this totally feels like a Hallmark horror movie. And that might even be offensive to Hallmark, because that might be an insult to them, because I've only seen one or two Hallmark movies, and they're watchable. They're not really my thing usually, but at least, you know, they look good. They're well made. This would be like a Hallmark on a day off making a horror movie. Oh, what else? The lighting. There's some of the worst lighting I've ever seen in a, I don't want to say big budget, but at least in a theatrical horror film, in a movie that's released in the theater. Terrible lighting. The camera goes out of focus for no fucking reason multiple times throughout the movie. I don't know if that's a stylistic choice, but it's a stupid one if it was. And then last but not least, the reveal of our killer is... Do you guys remember how I railed against the blackening and how the killer in that movie was just so fucking petty and stupid? Well, we have a new king for stupid and petty, my friends, because the motivation of this killer in this fucking movie is one of the dumbest, most childish fucking things I've ever heard of. I'm so disgusted with this movie. And this movie is 1 hour and 45 fucking minutes long. Are you kidding me? I had to sit for longer than usual to sit through this garbage. A movie that could have been 1 hour and 10 minutes and could have literally given me the exact same story. Now, surprisingly, I was able to pull out 2 positives out of this film, and literally only 2. The first one is going to be the character of Mr. Jackson, played by William Russ. He is like probably the only likable character in this whole fucking movie. And by the end of the movie, you kind of hate him too, for whatever reason. It's just, oh God. And then the only other thing I liked about the movie is the outfit of the killer. I like the mask. I like the judge's wig with the judge's gavel. Like, I thought all that was cool, but then we get no explanation as to why. Like, where did that mask come from? That's not like a normal mask that you would just find in a courtroom, you know? That's a fucking menacing-looking mask. What's the backstory of that mask? Why are they dressed like a judge? Am I just supposed to accept that they're being judge, jury, and executioner for these people that they're judging, so it's okay for them to wear a judge's outfit? Yeah, I would have really liked to have seen some kind of backstory on where the killer got the mask and why they decided to use it. Just give me a throwaway line at the end of the movie to just kind of throw that in there, just so that I have some satisfaction as to why this stupid, lame, ridiculous killer decided to wear such an awesome outfit to go around killing. what else can I really say about this movie? Most of the kills are off screen. I already said that. This is an R-rated movie that absolutely feels PG-13, other than the one brutal kill and a little bit of language throughout the film. Otherwise, this movie is the sheer definition of a throwaway film. Nobody watch this, please. Now, some younger movie audiences, once again, I think will get something out of it. Maybe those kids, the younger horror audiences that didn't grow up with Scream and maybe have never seen the original Scream movies, might get some enjoyment out of this. This movie tries so hard to be Scream, but it fails at every single attempt, all the way down to the reveal. Whereas the Scream franchise now is at a point where the reveal is about the only thing I don't like about it. I like the journey that the last couple of Scream movies have taken us on. This movie, complete opposite. Like, throughout the movie, I'm like, okay, this could turn into an interesting thing. And it never really happens. We get one kill for the first, half hour of the film. And then the whole rest of the first act and most of the second is just character development and setting up your red herrings. Because, of course, it is a murder mystery. There's going to be a shitload of red herrings. But ultimately, once again, for the third time this the second time this year. Third time for me, but second time for Fresh Cuts. Again, we have a horror comedy that is neither scary, nor funny, nor clever, nor anything that you would expect from a horror comedy. And I don't even know how this is a horror comedy. The attempts at comedy in here are so lame and stupid. Like, the theater that I saw it with, I ended up seeing it in a small theater, but it did sell out, so it was a packed small theater. And the amount of laughing that we were getting out of the audience at scenes that were supposed to be serious, it was constant. Usually I would hate that shit, but in this one instance, it actually raised my enjoyment level a little bit, that everyone in the audience was finding this movie as ridiculous as I did. So yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I can't recommend this. Maybe if you're like a 15-year-old horror fan who just got into horror, you might like this. But I mean, we were definitely hoping for another Thanksgiving-style movie, another great holiday slasher that comes out of nowhere. And this movie is definitely less Thanksgiving and more It's a Wonderful Knife. And that is not a compliment in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to leave my general thoughts at that and just say I thoroughly fucking hated this movie. Go.
Okay. Let's kick it over to Dawn to maybe have a different opinion or not. So what do you think of this movie, Dawn?
If it wasn't for Jerry Springer being the voice of reason in this, I'd say fuck this movie. Yeah, I copy and paste Venom sentiments exactly. I don't know if this is the character you were referring to, but the guy that looked like Jerry Springer being the best thing about this is probably the only thing that I liked about it.
Sadly.
Yeah, I mean, his character was actually, I'm referring to the political science teacher or history teacher. Yeah, he was the best thing about it because I actually really liked him. He seemed like the voice of reason. He seemed like he actually had a head on his shoulders. He actually seemed like, he was a, fairly intelligent person in a sea of morons that shouldn't have existed this long into their lives. God damn, these people are stupid. Yeah, I was pretty much done. I was like done with this movie 10 minutes in, and I was almost checked out 20 minutes in when one of the biggest and most infuriating tropes ever in the history of cinema, I regret to use this word, but graced the screens in a masked killer prank in front of us, victim of an actual stabbing. I was done with this movie. I pretty much just checked out, and I don't feel like I missed anything. I mean, I'd glance back up at the screen every few minutes. People were yakking about something unintelligible about politics or their future or some nonsensical bullshit. There's very little here. the kills, I mean, you glance up and you see somebody screaming, and you think, "Ooh, wow, something interesting is about to happen," and they get whacked off screen. Just, I will say I do think the one kill is pretty enjoyable. I think it's the theater screener where they knock off the one character in the hallway of the movie theater. I think that one was enjoyable, but yeah, the fake blood is just that it was just such a turn off. And then I don't know if this was as infuriating for you. They announced the one killer, and I'm saying the one killer 55 minutes into the movie, and I checked because I have the timer. I actually had the timer on my watch because I, was able to figure out where this movie is. It's about 55 minutes in. They announced one killer. Then the movie keeps going because it's an hour and 45 minutes long, and we've effectively announced who our villain is and dealt with that 55 minutes in. So what was the point of announcing the killer at that point? I don't get it. It makes no sense. The way that they revealed two is literally makes no sense. You just happen to walk upon them doing something out of their mask, and it's dealt with in one of the just lamest possible ways ever. And then the film keeps going, and then the film keeps going some more, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where this thing went wrong. Which sucks because I actually like the director's previous works. This is the same guy that did 10 Minutes to Midnight, which, I mean, we all three of us really enjoyed.
Aww. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and he did. She Came Out of the Woods last year, which I also enjoyed. Yeah,
I did too. Mm-hmm. It's actually going to be pretty prominent on my best of to be originals list, which I'm almost done with. I mean, this is a guy that I actually had. He was I wouldn't say he's going to be a major player, but okay, you've done two decent films. Each one was She Came from the Woods was better than 10 Minutes to Midnight, but they were both really solid. Uh-huh. And it was a guy that had he seemed to be heading in the right direction, and then he drops this, and yeah, I mean, you said it best. It's an amalgamation of It's a Wonderful Knife and Thanksgiving, where you take the bad qualities of both films and deliver none of the interesting factors in each one. So, yeah. I mean, if you want to see a Jerry Springer look like steal the show by being a voice of reason, I mean, I guess it's possible to enjoy this. But yeah, I think you're better off sticking with, Thanksgiving or even any of the Scream films that this thing is so desperate to try to copy. Ugh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm done. I don't have much else to go on this one because, yeah, Venom's already said most of the stuff I'm going to on it.
All right. Well, in that case, we're gonna make it 3 for 3. Not a fan of this movie. When I saw a trailer, it didn't look too promising, but my hope was, okay, at least we're getting an R-rated slasher. So if anything, anything we can fall back on, which we've seen in like recent movie or recent slashers in the last few years, where even if my feelings on the movie overall were mixed, we got some decent kills out of it. But in this one, not really so much. I think there's one good throat slash. That might be the one Don's referring to in the theater. Yep. It's been like it's been a handful of days since I've seen it, so I forgot specifically, but so we're on the same page on that. The rest of the kills, the problem is it's like the way they were shot, because it's like they had the potential to be better, because like it would be like, oh, it's a knife going through a face or a head, but they would almost shoot it to where it's like already happened, so you would just see like a handle of a blade like sitting there, but the kill itself was off screen, and it's just like, come on, you're rated R for a reason, and especially when you're not giving us that great of a story or anything else, it's like at least give us kills to fall back on, but nope, not here. I do like the design of the mask and the costume. That's fine. But man, this story it just feels so thin. The motivation ends up being kind of ridiculous because when I found out like the quote unquote mastermind behind it, I'm like, you really thought that was necessary considering the situation in the town, which I can get to into spoilers if I don't want to say it here because it would kind of give away too much actual story. But man, the characters I don't know who we're supposed to care about here. Um, we all like. Well, I can't say we. I think the three of us, but generally speaking, I think people like a good whodunit in their slasher. The problem with this one is just like it feels like they're like, well, Scream did it, but we're gonna do it on steroids, and it just doesn't work. Like it feels like I was saying, the mastermind comes out of left field almost purposely just to say, bet you couldn't have guessed that. And it's they're right. I didn't guess it because it's so ludicrous. That's why. And usually in a good whodunit, once the reveal of the killer happens, you can kind of retrace like the steps of like where they could have been a part of it and why and the motivation, and it somewhat makes sense. It's always like, there's stronger ones and weaker ones, but this one is just so nonsensical. The entire setup that we got at the beginning, once we find out like the truth behind what happened, it's just so ridiculous and over the top, as if that wouldn't have been immediately investigated and found out to be fraud. But yeah, what else? I don't know, man. I'm the characters in this teenagers just felt like throwaway characters. I did kind of find the cop lady. I forgot her name. I thought she was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was pretty funny. Like at least she just stumbled onto the wrong movie apparently. Like she belonged in a better movie than this, that character.
Much.
But otherwise, there just isn't much memorable. And like I said, like at least when you get good kills in a slasher, there's something to talk about. There's something that you can go back to, like if you had to watch the movie again. But I just don't see a reason to like watch this one again. It's just there's nothing memorable about it. And if they could put that costume, I think Venom was alluding to it, like give that costume and that mask like its due justice and put it in like a better movie, because like I do think it is kind of creepy looking, and because the story in this does have like a little bit of like a political in nature, it makes sense why the mask is how it is, with the hair, the founding father hairstyle and all that. So that's cool. But I cracked up at Venom, you saying what Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox Jr., because that's basically like what they modeled him after.
So bad.
Yeah, but yeah, I just didn't find much creative, nothing memorable, nothing. It's I understand why this is released in January for sure, and yeah, this is one I just can't recommend. It's just I wouldn't feel right sending someone to the theater to see this and be like, yeah, sorry, yeah, you'll probably never listen to a recommendation of mine again. But oh man, now even thinking about like the main characters, like, or the one of the killers, God, like, just it's starting to come back to me, like the motivation, like the speech that's given at the end, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like even in slasher world, this is horrible and stupid, and I don't think anyone in the audience is buying this. Who else? I kind of like the campaign manager guy. He was all right as a character, I guess.
That's our deputies. Director. Are you talking about the deputy mayor?
Yeah.
That's our director.
Oh,
it makes me hate him even more.
Yeah, I know. How could you stand for this? But yeah, there's not much else to add because you guys have covered most of like what I was thinking too. But I was just hoping for a little bit more here, because you never know with a slasher. There's ways to make something serviceable, even if it's not good. And I just feel like they dropped the ball. They dropped the ball in usually what the easy areas of a slasher are, and they just couldn't recover. It's just lame. So, Venom, back to you.
I hear a lot of people calling this a political slasher, and I'm just not seeing it that way. Yes, it is. The movie is based around a mayoral election, but as far as like political commentary, there's very little. There's nothing in here about racism, sexism, xenophobia, body autonomy, all the big political topics of the day. The only real political message that I thought this movie had is that liberals and conservatives are equally shitty. They're equally greedy. They're equally concerned with their own affairs more than the affairs of their constituents or the people that they're supposed to be representing. And I've been a voter for 35 years. I didn't need a movie to tell me that both sides are shitty. I kind of knew that decades ago.
It feels like more election horror than political horror.
Thank you. I'll go with election horror. Yeah, but political... I mean, Jesus, movies like Candyman and Men had endlessly more political commentary than this fucking movie. And this movie is actually based, like I said, around an actual election. You'd think they would lean into like topics and things like that more, but really no. It was almost like a contest to see who was more ridiculous, the mayor or the mayor's opponent. Like who was more over the top and who was less qualified for the job. It seemed like both of them were just awful choices, which kind of says a lot about American politics too, because how often as a registered voter do you go to vote for president and you don't like either candidate and you don't like any of the independents? It's like, but I know I should vote for somebody. It's, kind of my, right as an American, but man, yeah, this fucking movie, holy shit. And we haven't even talked about like the main characters, like the Allison, the main character that we follow throughout the majority of the movie, even though we kind of ignore her for a big chunk of like the first and second act, and then she kind of comes back into the story. Like I said, they spend so much time on character development and red herring development that it just kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And it's one of those movies that you're not likely gonna pick out who the killer is because it's such a ridiculous. The reasoning is ridiculous, and the methodology is ridiculous. Like how they actually became a killer. It's just, this movie has so little to offer. Even though on the surface, you look at it, you watch the trailer, it's like, oh, it looks like any other, big budget Hollywood horror film. No different than, Night Swim or blah, blah, blah. But man, and the editing, holy shit. I have not seen editing this bad since Black Christmas 2019. I know that's, Jesus, almost 5 years ago now. But if you guys remember some of the awful editing in that movie where they took an R-rated cut and made it into a PG-13 cut, but the cuts that they put in there were absolute garbage. Yeah, I haven't seen editing this bad since that movie back in 2019. Yeah, this, like I said, there's just very little redeeming about this movie. Like, there's no characters to really get behind. There's just, again, it's kind of a high school youth-oriented horror that, if you're not in high school, you're probably not going to feel any kind of sense of, dread or impending doom. It's you're waiting for more kills. When you're watching a horror comedy slasher, you're waiting for them kills. That's what you want. And if you're not going to give me those awesome kills, then for fuck's sake, give me at least a decent story. And yeah, we absolutely don't get that here. So yeah, a political slasher that is neither political, but there is slashing, so I guess I'll give it that, even though most of it's off screen. And what's not off screen doesn't look very good. So I'm just not sure where else we can go from there. Just, I'm actually going to disagree with Mike on one thing. Catherine Curtin as the commissioner. I love her usually. I think she's completely wasted in this movie, and I don't even like her performance in this movie. It doesn't make sense. She plays the commissioner of police. Yet she acts like, I don't know, like, I can't even think of a good analogy, just like a goofball. And by the way, as far as police characters sucking on a lollipop, fuck you. Kojak did that 40 years ago. Don't you dare try to take any thunder from Kojak. He's fucking awesome. Yes, I'm old enough to know Kojak. Anyway, point is,
I'm old enough to know Kojak, and I caught that reference.
Nice. Yeah. I hated that. Every fucking scene in the movie, she's got a lollipop, and I just want to strangle her. And I'm sitting in a sea of like 20-something-year-olds that probably would never know what the hell Kojak is. So to them, it's like, oh, that's so different and original. No, it isn't at all. Stop it. Her performance, again, it just goes to the bad direction because she could be a lot funnier. We've seen Katherine Curtin, like I said, I mentioned Werewolves Within, where she's fucking brilliant. And that's the difference when you have a good director and good writing. This is a waste. This movie is an absolute waste for Katherine Curtin. I feel bad that she even did it, but I understand a paycheck is a paycheck. One of the best criticisms I heard about this movie that actually made me laugh was that this is the kind of movie that made us not care about the writers and actors strike last year. Because if this is the kind of shit that we're getting because they're not on strike, maybe go back on strike. I don't know. Like this is just not good at all. Man. I mean, for whatever it's worth, I didn't hate Allison, our main character. She does the best that she can with the material that she's given. Naomi Grace is the actress. Plays our main character, Allison Chambers. She does as good as she can. It's not a stellar performance, but it's also not awful. Like I said, the mayor and the mayor's opponent, absolute cartoon characters, fucking caricatures of human beings. The two bullies that I already mentioned. And obviously some of the townsfolk here, like the council members and citizens that were at that council meeting, just over the top absolute caricatures. But again, it's something that we kind of have to accept. I mean, obviously the movie's awful, so I don't accept anything about this movie. But like I said, we're three grizzled old men on this show. We've been watching horror movies probably collectively between the three of us. We probably got about 80 years of horror movie watching and enjoying. So I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. When you've been watching horror as long as we have, the tropes tend to get a little bit more annoying than they do for younger horror fans. So I would say if you're under 24, you haven't been watching horror for that long, maybe no more than 10 years, then I would say you may enjoy this movie. Go check it out. It's, not the worst made thing I've ever seen, but when you really, really nitpick every aspect of it, it's pretty fucking awful. And even though I didn't graduate film school, I did go to film school for a couple of semesters, so I do know a tiny little bit about what I'm talking about. Just tiny, I assure you. But man, yeah, this movie is so poorly made. It should not have been released. How this is not a straight to VOD is beyond me. Like, whose dick did this director suck to get this released in theaters? I need to know that.
Probably those dumbasses who watched She Came from the Woods and praised it.
I was like, obviously not any of ours.
I mean, I didn't hate She Came from the Woods. I accepted it as just a cheesy camp slasher, which is exactly what it is. It does have a supernatural element to it, which I didn't hate. But
I loved it because of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I had a really good time with it. I saw it in the theater. It was one of the more surprising movies of last year because I had heard nothing about it. You guys know I don't watch trailers. It's the kind of thing where if I see a poster at the theater for a horror movie, I go see it. It's that simple. I mean, that's exactly what happened with Founders Day. No trailer. I never saw a poster. I never even saw like a tweet. And usually I follow most of the major studios, and they will always tweet about their new releases. I don't even remember seeing a tweet about Founders Day. So either the filmmakers are just utterly embarrassed about this movie and don't want to push it too hard, because then everybody will have to share in the crapulence. But I don't know. I really want to know what deal was made to get this fucking turd in the theater. Oh, and by the way, it hits streaming next week. Ha! So that tells you a lot about the goddamn quality.
That tells you about the confidence.
Exactly, yeah. So, if my cohorts don't have anything else to add that is spoiler-free, I guess this will be your final spoiler warning. Usually I would say if you haven't seen the movie, pause the show, go watch it, and come back. But I'm going to say, yeah, never ever watch this movie, and just stick around and enjoy what will be a very quick and stupid walkthrough. Okay, let's start it out. Our movie opens up and we are introduced to what's the name of the girl? Lily, and she is a. Oh wait, is it Lily? No, that's the mayor's daughter. Fuck, I'm so sorry. Anyway, we end up meeting a girl who is the daughter of the mayor's opponent. This guy is running for mayor. I forget his name. What the hell was his name? Faulkner. So Faulkner was running for mayor, and Gladwell was already the mayor. So in the opening scene, we're introduced to Faulkner's daughter. We see that they have a tenuous relationship. They're not very friendly. And then we find out that the daughter is a lesbian, that she dates a girl, and she actually dates Allison, played by Naomi Grace. She gets into an argument with her father because it's basically a few days before the election. I think it's like less than a week before the election. Founders Day is like the 3rd, and then Election Day is the 6th, the following Tuesday. So they're in the middle of an election, and they're getting into a discussion because she dresses very obviously lesbian, like she's not trying to hide her sexuality at all, and which upsets her father because he's trying to run for mayor, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Melissa, that's her name. I found her. Melissa. Okay, so Melissa ends up going and meeting Allison, and they have a discussion about after graduation. I guess these folks are like seniors, or some of them maybe are even out of high school. Who knows? But the ones that we do see in school, I'm assuming are seniors, 17, 18 years old. So let's see. Melissa ends up meeting Allison. They start talking about the future. Allison has decided that after she graduates high school, she's going to be leaving town and continuing her education at college. Melissa is not very happy about this. I don't know if it's because Melissa has no prospects for college or if she just has no desire to want to go to college. But the point is, she's adamant that she wants Allison to stay. They meet up at a bridge, and on this bridge, there's a bunch of like padlocks that people will like carve their initials, like JC plus MA or whatever stupid thing you want to do. And they have a padlock with their initials on it, with AC for Allison Chambers and MF for Melissa Faulkner. And when Melissa goes to put the lock up on the bridge, just to kind of play like a silly little prank, she loops the lock through one of the belt loops on Allison's jeans. And so basically Allison is locked to the side of this bridge by one of her belt loops. The first ridiculous thing right there. Anyway, as they're talking, a car pulls up to the bridge. It's a walking bridge, by the way, so cars can actually go on the bridge. So the car stops at the end of the bridge with its high beams on so that the girls can't see who's, driving the car. And then we see a masked assailant come out of the car and attack Melissa. And we see, the outfit that we saw in the trailers, the red kind of cool ghoul-looking mask, the judge's wig, the white judge's wig with the judge's robe and the gavel. And we see the killer basically, and again, the view is kind of obstructed for the viewer as well, by the headlights of this car or truck, whatever it is they were driving. So we see him hit Melissa multiple times in the head. It looks like he stabs her multiple times, and then he picks her up and he throws her over the bridge into the river below. Now, during this entire attack, Allison is screaming. Now, folks, the belt loops on your jeans are not that fucking strong. You may not be able to pull it with your hand, but if you're locked by a belt loop on a pair of jeans that you're wearing, all you have to do is give a little bit of effort and pull away. That belt loop is gonna unstitch. It's not that fucking hard. So already
when she got attached by the belt loop, I in no way thought like if worse came to worse, it was like I was like, oh, they're setting something up so she's gonna break loose, and it never happened, and I was like, what?
Yeah, all you have to do is just use your legs against the bridge and push off with your legs.
You probably wouldn't even have to put in that much effort because, I mean, you're putting your whole body behind it. Like I said, it's not like trying to pull a belt loop off with your hands, like off a pair of jeans that you're not wearing. This is literally your entire body is just connected by a belt loop to this bridge. It wouldn't take that much. I've done it myself, for fuck's sake. I've done it by accident where I walk by like a hook or something. It grabs my belt loop. I keep walking and it rips right off on, one end of it. It's not hard to do. So anyway, And this is kind of the beginnings of the entire plan of, and I didn't really mention this during the non-spoiler section, but I definitely meant to. This plot is stupid. All the different elements that have to fall into place for this plot to actually be able to be carried out is absolutely ridiculous. And literally right from the very opening scene of the fucking movie, this plan should have fallen apart. It should have right off the bat, but it doesn't. So, like I said, back to the movie. After Allison gets herself, rips her belt loop off, she basically runs away, and we see the killer just standing in front of the headlights staring at her as she runs away. She ends up running to a political rally that's going on, and it's kind of interesting where both conservatives and liberals want to take credit for helping her. Like she's screaming and crying, my girl just got killed. And rather than somebody in the crowd going and getting a cop, they start to argue over who's going to help Allison. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the closest to a political message that we're really going to get out of this movie, is that both sides are just petty and stupid and short-tempered. I don't know, whatever. So, after that, it is the town realizes that they have a killer on their hands. And now we're going to spend the next 30 to 40 fucking minutes of this movie just building, developing characters, red herrings. So I'm just going to try to go through them as quickly as I can. We're introduced to one of the instructors in the school. His name is Mr. Jackson, a very educated, very well-spoken older man. Like Don says, looks a lot like an older Jerry Springer. And he seems to be the voice of reason in this town that's just filled with hotheads and people yelling at each other over one topic or another. And he seems to be the level-headed voice of reason for this town. So he's instantly a likable character. Let's see, who else are we introduced to? We're introduced to the mayor, who is Blair Gladwell. She is the current mayor. She has she has one daughter named Lily, who works at the movie theater that Allison used to work at and Adam currently works at. Let's introduce Adam while I mentioned him. Adam Faulkner, he is the son of Mr. Faulkner, the guy who's running for mayor. And he is also the brother of Melissa Faulkner, the girl who was killed in the cold open. Let's see. We're introduced to Commissioner Peterson. She is the commissioner of police, like I said, played by Katherine Curtin. She is definitely the comic relief of the movie. She's always trying to keep the mood light. No matter what horrible thing has happened in the town, she still cracks a little joke every now and again. So I'll give her credit for being a pretty cool character. And then Deputy Miller is another character that we meet. I honestly thought he was the sheriff because Katherine Curtin is called the commissioner. And if you look on IMDb, her character is Commissioner Peterson. So I incorrectly assumed that Miller was a sheriff, but he's a deputy. And it seems like he's one of the only cops in town because every time a cop is needed for a scene in this movie, he is there. So, it's very much another Scream situation where they have a very small police department and one particular guy is always answering all the calls. And then Oliver, who is the deputy mayor, not the sheriff's deputy. The sheriff's deputy is the cop. I call him Dewey Jr. because he is basically Dewey in the Scream movies. And then, like I said, Oliver Hull, played by our director, Eric Blumquist, is the deputy mayor. He's kind of like the mayor's assistant, Mayor Gladwell's, most trusted assistant. The hand of the king, if you will, for all you Game of Thrones watchers. So, and then we meet the bullies, too, and they're throwaway characters, Britt and Tyler. Like I said, literally, they're Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox III. They literally copy the look, the attitude. They're the big bullies in school that are always fucking with Allison, to the point where literally the day after Allison watches her girlfriend get murdered and thrown over a bridge, they decide to pull a prank on her where he wears a black hood and then he chases her through the hall until he finally gets her. And we get this tense scene where he's trying to push a knife into her chest. Everybody in the hall's just watching. Like, instantly, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? How is no one doing anything? You're all literally going to watch one of your classmates get murdered in front of you? Fuck. Anyway, finally, he gets to her chest and stabs her in the chest, but it turns out it's a fake knife. It's just one of those retractable knives. And then he pulls the mask off, and it's Tyler and Britt, and they're caught by a teacher. They're caught by Mr. Jackson, who basically forces them to apologize. They refuse to apologize, so he gives them 2 Saturdays worth of detention. Like, that's going to do anything to teach these idiots a lesson. And then we're introduced also to just various council members, Mr. Faulkner's wife, and then other members of the community. So, where can we go from here now that we've gotten through all the delivery? I forgot to mention that there is a movie theater that is a kind of a central location for the movie. Adam and Lily both currently work at that movie theater. Allison used to work at that movie theater, but that's where she met Melissa. Melissa also, I think, or actually it was Melissa that used to work at the movie theater. I'm so sorry. I'm getting my names backwards. Not that it's important. Who cares? Anyway. We start getting more like of the political discussion. You know, we get a little bit of a back and forth between the 2 candidates, not in an official debate, but more like in a shouting session in her office. Let's see. Eventually, on that first Saturday that the 2 bullies are doing detention in the school, Mr. Jackson is there. He basically gives them an assignment, a 2,000-word essay to write, blah, blah, blah. Then he leaves the room. Out of nowhere, then Tyler basically decides, let's fuck on his desk, on the old man's desk. Fuck that guy. He can't tell us what to do. So they start, and this is kind of comical. Machine Gun Kelly can't get it up. He's sitting there trying to jerk off, trying to get an erection, and he's unable to. So it ends up being mildly comical because he fucking deserves that. Anyway, we don't get to enjoy it for long because right then our judge killer shows up, starts bashing Tyler with the mallet. This is where we find out that there's actually a knife in the handle of the mallet, which I kind of like, because after the first kill, I'm sitting in the theater going, how is a mallet an effective, or a gavel? How is that an effective murder weapon? Like, you'd have to sneak up on all of your victims. They'll never know that, they're being attacked or whatever. But then when we find out that there's actually a knife in the handle, then I'm like, okay, that's a little bit better. I'll accept that. And it's definitely more slasher-y. It's more of a slasher type weapon than just a basic knife or a basic mallet or something, So I'll give him credit for that. Anyway, of course, Tyler is killed. He's pretty much bludgeoned with the mallet. Britt runs out of the room screaming, still half naked from the sex that never happened. She ends up going to the gym, hiding in the bleachers. Of course, the killer finds her. And this is one of those kills that just doesn't look very good. He stabs her right in the middle of the forehead. But it's one of those jump cut type things where you see him take the swing, and then the camera cuts, and then it goes back to the girl, and the knife is already in her forehead, and there's not even any blood. Now, granted, I know the blood would probably more come when they pull the knife out, but you're still going to get a little bit on the insertion. So, it just didn't look very good, blah, blah, blah. At that same time, Allison is at the school trying to get something out of her locker that she forgot. She hears somebody writing on a chalkboard. She hears like that classic sound of chalk, rubbing up against a chalkboard. And she's wondering who the hell's at the school on a Saturday. It's a Saturday. There shouldn't be anybody here. She walks into the same classroom, Mr. Jackson's classroom, where Tyler was just murdered. And we see Adam Faulkner, the mayoral candidate's son, who also, whose sister was murdered in the very opening scene. We see him in the outfit, but with the mask off. He's got the mask on. He's got the entire outfit on. And this killer had the MO.
No, he's got the mask on the desk. That's how she knows it's him.
Oh, I thought he took it off in front of her. You're probably right. He's got it on the desk. Either way,
which is boneheaded move, because it's like, oh yeah, you're in a public place. Like, it just seems like ridiculous that he would just I could see maybe if he's like writing on the chalkboard, he like lifts the mask like on top of his head, but to just take it off and put it on the desk. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, that's that amateur move, definitely amateur fucking move. So, so now we see Allison. She catches Adam. Adam? Yeah, Adam. Writing on the wall, writing on the chalkboard while wearing the outfit. She freaks out and starts to run away. Adam instantly starts yelling, "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I'm so sorry. It wasn't supposed to be like this. You don't understand." You know, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of cryptic shit that won't be explained until later. He then follows her outside, where Allison runs to her father, who's outside waiting for her. Literally, her father, who is, you know, a fairly well-built black dude, is like right there, and he still decides to attack Allison. He literally puts his hand on her throat, lifts the knife up, and says, "I'm sorry that I have to do this." But luckily, the dad pulls a piece of broken lumber out from the back of his truck and literally impales Adam with it. It's actually a pretty gnarly little wound that we see after he pulls it out. And like Don said earlier, this is 55 minutes into the movie, into an hour and 45-minute movie, and it's like, wait a minute, we just got the reveal of our killer. We now see that Adam is, you know, the killer, and he, of course, dies of his injury, you know, getting impaled by the lumber. And then that night, or the next day maybe, they have another council meeting where the townsfolk are not convinced that Adam was the only killer. I don't know how, but for some reason, the town is actually right in this instance. They're like, we don't think this is over. Like I said, they're doing this at a council meeting, and the mayor obviously has a speech, lets them know, you know, we're going to do everything that we can, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time that this meeting is happening, her own daughter, Lily, is at the movie theater being stalked, or maybe it was the night before. I think it was the night before the council meeting. Lily is at the movie theater by herself being stalked, and she eventually does end up getting killed in the movie theater in the aisle. Basically, the killer hits her in the head to kind of knock her down on the ground, then throws a bunch of glass on the ground, forcing her to crawl through broken glass. Eventually, when the killer finally has its, you know, his entertainment value, he does lift up her head and slice her throat. And what's one of the better looking kills in the movie, sadly, is just a basic throat slit, but I'll still give the movie its credit. It looked halfway decent. So now at this point, we're having another meeting the next day, and literally right before the meeting, Lily's body is discovered in a dumpster, and it's discovered by this kind of douchebag guy. I forget, Rob. Rob was his name. He's kind of like the town loser. Like, he's out of high school, but he still hangs out with high school kids. He's actually, like, he's seen multiple times making out with Lily. We find out that Lily and Adam did have a relationship, you know, previous to the events of the movie. So, of course, you know, Adam's a little bit jealous, but doesn't matter because he's dead now. So basically, after he gets the police and lets them know that he found a dead body, instantly the cop starts questioning him. Like, oh, you were the last person I saw her, so you're obviously going to be a suspect. But he freaks out instantly. He doesn't understand that there's a procedure and that everyone involved is going to be a suspect for a short time, you know, until they are deemed not a suspect. He freaks the fuck out and just starts running, runs away from the cops, and he basically disappears. And then we get the events at the high school with Adam being caught as the killer. But even with Adam being killed and determined that he was the killer, the townsfolk are still after Rob. So Rob is still kind of like public enemy number one in this town, at least for the time being. And like I said, then the news gets to the mayor that her daughter is dead, and they bring her to the dumpster where the body was found so that she can identify the body, which she does. And then there's another council meeting where this time the townsfolk are up in arms. They're just like, what are you guys going to do? Something has to be done, blah, 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 blah. The mayor, understandably, is in her office getting hammered on whiskey. I mean, her only daughter was just murdered and dumped in a dumpster. So, yeah, you know, I'll forgive her a little bit of alcohol. But then, you know, her assistant tells her, don't worry about the meeting. I'll take care of it. You stay here, blah, blah, blah. She ends up not listening to that advice and very obviously incredibly drunk, starts talking to her constituents and, you know, the people that hate her and love her equally. And, you know, she's trying to give the, you know, the political buzzwords, we're going to tackle this as a community. The only way we can beat this is together, not separate, not at each other's throats. You know, the basic political crap that you always hear. And then she ends up just having a little bit of a meltdown right in the meeting where she's just like, I just lost my daughter, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know how the meeting devolved after that, but she ends up going back to her office, continuing her binge drinking. We see her pour another big old glass of whiskey. But when she gets to her office, the mayoral candidate, Mr. Faulkner, is in her office reading her documents. This guy literally walked into the mayor's office and just starts looking through her paperwork, her cabinets, and he ends up finding some paperwork about some kickbacks that she's been getting for the whole 4 years that she's been mayor. And he's obviously threatening her, saying, you know, oh, when this gets out, there's no way you're going to, you know, become the mayor. They obviously go back and forth, trading barbs against each other. Finally, the killer makes themselves, and this is the scene that really shocked me in the sense that what unmitigated balls this killer had, because he is about to murder 2 people in the fucking mayor's office while a major council meeting is happening right down the hall, and a large chunk of the community is in that building. So, I mean, I'll give the killer credit for having some balls, because that takes some goddamn balls. Anyway, the killer ends up attacking the mayor, stabbing her in the throat, killing her. She falls to the ground. And then Mr. Faulkner basically tries to fight off the killer. When you find out who the killer is, this scene comes off as mildly ridiculous, but I'm going to leave it alone for now. And what ends up happening is the killer ends up pushing Mr. Faulkner up against the mayor's chair, like onto her chair, and then just starts slashing his face uncontrollably. Like, this is the most brutal kill we've seen in this movie. So it kind of gives you an idea that this killer might have a personal relationship with Mr. Faulkner, or at least hates him enough to just destroy his face, because literally it's almost a good 15 to 20 seconds of the killer just slash, just slashing over and over, stabbing him in the forehead and the eye, until it finally, you know, we get the end result, which admittedly doesn't look great, but like I said, because it's the most brutal kill in the movie, I'm actually mildly okay with it, even though, again, CG blood, CG knife wounds, blah, blah, blah. So now at this point, the mayor and the mayor's opponent are both dead. So obviously, you know, the town doesn't know what the hell it's going to do. But at this exact same time, Allison's father is brought into the police station for questioning. Just like they're questioning everybody in the town about their whereabouts during murders and things like that. While he's in the police department speaking to the commissioner, Rob shows up and jumps into his truck. Allison's outside in the truck by herself while her father's inside talking to the cops. We see Rob jump into the truck. He vehemently, you know, says, I did not kill anyone. I could not do this, blah, blah, blah. Allison believes him. And they decide, okay, let's start retracing retracing Allison's steps from the night of the first murder, when Melissa was murdered. When they get there, they are met by Deputy Dewey, and he, of course, is still in the process of looking for Rob. When he sees Rob with Allison at the bridge where Melissa was killed, instantly he wants them to separate. You know, he's telling Allison, step away from him, don't get near him, blah, blah, blah. And then finally the cop just decides, okay, fuck this, and pulls out his handcuffs and handcuffs Rob to the bridge, almost to the exact same spot where Allison was padlocked to when Melissa was killed. The cop starts to claim that Allison's father is the killer. She's the cop is like, your father attacked me while we were at the police station. We've got him in captivity at the station. I need you to come with me. He's talking to Allison, telling Allison to come with him to the station. Allison knows without a shadow of a doubt her father is not the killer. So instantly there's this trust thing, but then the cop fucks up. The cop says something like, I need to get you home before your father wakes up. And she's like, well, wait a minute. You just told me you had him in a holding cell. How is he home sleeping now? And of course, the cop instantly realizes that he got himself caught in a lie. He pulls his gun out. Rob is able to kind of have a struggle with him. And then the inevitable happens where two people are struggling for a gun. The gun goes off. You're not 100% sure who got shot until somebody falls down. And as it turns out, it's the cop that got shot. Rob ends up shooting the cop, Deputy Dewey. And then just before he dies, he apologizes to Allison and says almost the same thing that Adam said right before he died of, it wasn't supposed to be like this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it had to go this way or whatever. So Allison is confused. At that point, she leaves. The cop is dead on the ground. Rob is handcuffed to the bridge. She takes the cop car. She doesn't even take her father's truck, which is an odd decision. But she takes the cop car and basically drives home. When she gets home, she sees that the killer has been there because there are messages. And I kind of forgot to mention earlier that the killer is always leaving messages at the scene. Usually it's just like nursery rhymes or like roses are red, violets are blue, which is what we see at Allison's house at the end when she gets home. So she's kind of sneaking around her house hoping that her father is still there. She ends up getting to her bedroom, which, by the way, have you guys ever seen a bedroom with a bathtub in it? I've never even seen that. I like when I saw that bathtub right next to her bed, I'm like, what? I thought it might be decorative.
I never even thought that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, my parents' bedroom they have a bathroom off to the side, but not like in the room.
Literally, there was a sink and a bathtub in her bedroom.
Yeah, like if there's a master bedroom or a master bathroom in the master bedroom, sure, but not just sitting kind of in the room.
Literally, yeah. I mean, how does her stuff not get damaged when she takes a hot shower? It doesn't, or a hot bath. She can't take a shower. It's a bathtub. But yeah. Anyway, that's besides the point. It's just a weird aesthetic choice that they decided to go with that I've never seen. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I've never known anyone who had a bathtub and a sink in their bedroom, not separate in a side room, literally in the same room with their bed. So, whatever. Anyway, when she finally does get up to her bedroom, she's following a trail of rose petals that the killer has left for her to go through the house and see all the messages in order. Roses are red, violets are blue. I forget how that particular one ends. Well, it ends with look under the bed. When she finally gets to her bathroom, to her bedroom/bathroom, written on the side of the bathtub is "Look under the bed." Now she's got a pair of scissors in her hand, so she is armed. She looks under her bed, and what she sees is the killer. She sees someone dressed in the entire outfit, the wig, the mask, the robe, everything. So she instantly starts stabbing the person. But then we hear the person under the mask go, Allison, it's me. Stop. And Allison finally pulls the mask off, and it's her father tied up. So the killer dressed her father up as the killer, potentially to frame him, which we'll find out here in a few minutes. After Allison notices that it's her father under the bed, she's attacked from behind, she's knocked out, and then she's tied up next to her father. When she comes to, the killer is standing there in front of her, and the killer takes off their mask. And who the fuck is it, my friends? It's Melissa Faulkner, the girl who, quote unquote, died in the cold open. Then they show us the cold open again, but from a different angle. And this time we can see how the quote unquote, basically Adam in the killer's outfit was basically like doing like wrestling hits with the mallet, where he's not actually hitting the head. He's kind of going off to the side. But because the headlights were flashing right in Allison's eyes, she can't quite tell everything that we see. And then we see Adam drag Melissa behind the car that he drove, and we see them pull out a dummy, literally a life-size dummy dressed exactly like Melissa. He then continues to act like he's killing the dummy before finally throwing it over the bridge. And so we get our answer there as to how she is involved in this whole thing. Then she makes a phone call telling someone to join her. She basically says, I'm almost done. Come down here and finish this with me. So at this point, we already know that Adam is dead, her brother, who was also a killer. And then who shows up at the house but Mr. fucking Jackson, the character that we all kind of liked, is the fucking mastermind of this whole thing. He's not... mastermind might be the wrong word. He's not the one who put the idea in the other people's heads. He's the one who just came up with the plots that would work, like the plans, the fake Melissa kill at the bridge, you know, shit like that, killing the mayor in the office, all that shit. And so basically Mr. Jackson tells the story of how they all got together. And this is where it gets fucking so disgustingly petty and stupid. Melissa, one day, walking to work at the movie theater, she's going to work. She goes by the alley behind the movie theater, and she sees Lily and Rob making out. Now, don't forget, at this point, Lily and Adam are together. Adam, of course, being Melissa's brother. She ends up telling Adam exactly what she saw. Adam wants to text Lily right away. She says, no, I have a better idea. And this is where the plot starts to fucking develop. So you've got two killers. One wants to kill their partner because she wants to go to college and better her life after high school. The other wants to kill his ex-girlfriend because she made out with some guy in an alley. My friends, is murder the proper response to these allegations? I've been cheated on. I'm not going to fucking murder the girl that cheated on me. That doesn't fucking make any sense. So yeah. And then we also find out that part of this little cabal of killers is also Deputy Miller, who we saw die at the bridge. So we knew he had to be involved in some way. And then we also see Oliver, the fucking deputy mayor, aka the director of the film. So it's literally 5 of them. They all decide this is the plot that we're going to do. We're going to kill Lily because she cheated on Adam. We're going to kill Allison because she wants to leave. She wants to leave town and better herself. And then they want to kill off both of the mayors because there's a clause in the city chapter that says if the mayor is killed in office and there's no obvious person to put in that slot, that the longest standing member of the council, of the city council, automatically becomes mayor. Guess who that is, my friends? Mr. Jackson.
The funniest thing about that, though, is like the town loves Mr. Jackson. He could have just fucking ran for mayor and probably won.
He could have run it as an independent and would have won in a landslide. But whatever. And then, let's see what else. Now, the other thing that irks me about this whole fucking movie is that there's 5 people involved in the killings, 5 antagonists. 2 of them fucking get away with it. Literally, Mr. Jackson is allowed to become mayor because basically Mr. Jackson and Allison have a conversation right before the cops get there. I forgot to mention that at this point, Allison was able to get the upper hand on Melissa and kill her. So Melissa is now deader than shit. And Mr. Jackson is there alive, but he's not wearing, like the outfit or anything. He's dressed normal, and he also doesn't have any blood on him. And he literally explains the entire situation to Allison. Like I said, as we're learning it, it's him, kind of giving the narration of everything that's happened and why it's happened. Now, this is another head-scratching part of the movie. Just before the police get there, Mr. Jackson asks Allison, what are you going to tell the cops? And Allison just says the truth, assuming, at least to us, the viewer, that she's going to spill all of it. The whole thing with Mr. Jackson, the deputy mayor, the sheriff, everything. Instead, and I have no fucking idea why, Allison decides not to rat out the deputy mayor and Mr. Jackson. They basically pin the murders on the brother and sister, which like I said, when you watch some of these murders, like when you watch the murder in the mayor's office, that murder is committed by Melissa, because later in the movie she actually says, "I just killed my father." So that's her in that scene. Guess what, folks? In the cold open, when we see Melissa and her father, Melissa is drastically shorter than her father. But in the murder scene in the mayor's office, the killer is taller than Mr. Faulkner. Now, granted, people can wear heels. I understand this. But she would have had to have worn stilettos to be taller than her dad. So, again, one of those little elements that you kind of have to just say, okay, fuck it. So anyway, after the police arrive, it's 1 year later. The movie advances to 1 year. We're at the finale. We see that Mr. Jackson is now the mayor, and everyone in town is very happy with him. We don't see people yelling back and forth. We don't see protests. It seems like he actually did bring peace to the city. Do the means justify the ends? I guess that's up to the viewer ultimately. And then we see Allison no longer in the town. She's off to college, and she's giving a dissertation about what happened to her, about the murders, that happened in her town. So basically, she became, maybe not Sidney Prescott, but Gail Weathers, because she wrote a book about her fucking experiences. And that's pretty much how the movie ends. Literally, the movie ends at the political rally where Mr. Jackson just gave his speech. Everybody's given him a standing ovation. And then there's Oliver, the deputy mayor, standing right behind him, acting like he didn't fucking do anything. And that's how our movie ends. And this is just one of the dozens of reasons to hate this fucking movie. This director actually thought that this was a clever ending. Let's have two kids who, one got cheated on and one is about to lose their girlfriend to college. Let's take advantage of them. Ultimately, I think the entire ploy was just to get Mr. Jackson to be the mayor. Because the mere fact that they had the deputy and the deputy mayor and the deputy sheriff both in on the plan, it almost seemed like it actually was Mr. Jackson's plan and that he was maybe manipulating the two kids. We ultimately don't get confirmation of this, but I mean, I think you can kind of, because obviously Adam and Melissa are both smarter than they think they are. Like, they're not ultra bright, but they think they're ultra intelligent. And like I said, this plan is so convoluted and stupid. It should have fallen apart at the bridge when Allison should have been able to get out of that padlock. Also, the fact that Allison just ran away. Like, Allison didn't run towards the killer or run into the water to try to save Melissa. She just ran away. So you can't fucking predict that that's going to be her. I mean, what if Melissa got out of the padlock and then attacked the killer while he was quote unquote killing Melissa? There goes the entire plan. Whole plan out the fucking window. The mayor's office attack. I mean, how the hell did the killer get a solid 10 minutes uninterrupted in the mayor's office to be able to kill two fucking people without anybody else walking in? And then eventually the commissioner actually does end up walking in, and the killer ends up taking out the commissioner too, because she ends up, like I said, she walks into the office after the mayor and the mayor's opponent are both dead, and she kind of freaks out. And of course she says a funny line, and then she starts to run away, but the killer is able to catch her, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, folks, I could sit here for another hour listing off everything all the issues that I have with this movie, between its storytelling, its acting, its technical aspects. Like I said, I've already said the editing, the fucking sound design. Even the sound design is not very good in this movie. Did you guys, I don't know if you saw this at home or in the theater, but did you notice that one montage scene? The music was way too fucking loud.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was... Okay, it wasn't just my theater. Good.
It wasn't you, yeah. I thought it as well when in my showing.
Yeah, terrible sound design. Bad editing, bad sound design, bad direction, bad cinematography. I fucking, even the I can't even vouch for the cinematography. Bad score. I mean, like I said, there is so little to actually like about this movie. And one of them gets ruined at the end. Like, we all like Mr. Jackson, but then when we get to the end and realize that he's the mastermind, it's like, oh, fuck you. You took advantage of these kids, like, their broken emotions to get them to put you in the mayor's office. It seems a little shitty. And then the only other thing positive that really any of us can say is the outfit. The outfit is pretty cool. It would have been great if we could have seen either an early scene in the movie where the killer finds the mask. Like you don't actually have to explain the origin of the mask. Not at all. Just where did they find it? How did they find it? Does it mean anything? Does it have any kind of symbolism? Why are they wearing judges' robes and a judge's wig? Like I said earlier, the easy answer is because they're playing judge, jury, and executioner to all these people that they're deeming guilty. But that in and of itself just seems a little flimsy is all. So, yeah, overall, I can't really recommend this movie, especially not at the theater. Please, for God's sakes, do not spend money to watch this. If it hits Tubi or Pluto or some free streaming service, I mean, I still couldn't recommend it, but at least if you're curious, wait for it to be free. Don't waste your money on this one. That's it for me, folks.
Yeah, it's like if you're a huge fan of slashers in particularly, still don't watch it, but at least it's there, I guess.
Yep.
All right. I guess everything else you can say for Founders Day 2.
Hey, you know what? I'm not going to say that I'm completely against the Founders Day 2. Only in the sense of if they give us an origin of the outfit, I might accept it. And then, of course, give us a way better killer with a better motivation, blah, blah, blah. Getting cheated on is not a reason to murder, folks. I know it sucks. It makes you feel useless and unwanted, but murder is not the proper response to getting dumped. And not even getting dumped, getting cheated on, which if making out is cheating, I guess to most people it is, whatever. But yeah,
I'm just reminded of your famous saying: "It's better to be vindictive than petty."
There you go. I like it. Oh man. Okay. Can we stop talking about this movie now?
Yep. And let's start talking about what else we got for people to listen to. You got anything, Venom?
Yeah, we finally do have episode 23 of Creature Comforts in the can. I am in the process of editing that right now. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the week. So I would imagine by the end of this week or early next week, you'll see episode 23 where we take a look at Rawhead Rex, the 1986 creature feature coming to you from Clive Barker, his second screenplay turned into a major motion picture, so that was fun. It also did recently get a 4K release from Kino Lorber, so check that one out if you can get it. It's pretty cheap. It's only $20 on Amazon right now, too, so if you're a fan of Rawhead Rex, go grab it. I got my copy. I was happy. And that's pretty much it for me. I know we're talking about the return of the Crystal Lake gift shop happening sooner than later. If there's any developments there, obviously we'll let you know about that here. And ultimately, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I'll kick it over to Don. What you got?
All right. Yeah. As mentioned, Creature Comforts is coming out soon. I think plans are in motion for the main show that I'm going to guest on, which should be recording maybe sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. And the only other thing, I guess, for now is my show, The Horror Countdown, where the latest episode, we're now on episode 4 of the new season, is Christmas-themed horror movies. So Lacey started off the season with holiday in general. This one is specifically Christmas. So yeah, this one was a pretty fun one. So go ahead and check that one out wherever it's available. There are a few other guest spots that I have coming up. Sort of a tit for tat kind of a cross promotional guest spot on my show. I'll guest spot on yours kind of a thing with a couple of guests, but those are one's recorded, one's in the planning stages, and then one's about to be recorded. So I guess I'll drop all of those when when they come out, essentially. So I guess for now, that's pretty much it.
Okay. For me, nothing yet. I am possibly going to be doing a guest spot, but it's still kind of in the will it or won't it happen based on the scheduling of a different show, so I'll hold off on that. And then we have a tentative date to record the next episode of the main show this weekend, actually. So it'll probably be another couple days until we officially lock it in, make sure everyone's still good on that. But hopefully, because it's been a while since we've actually done a normal formatted episode of the main show. But other than that, that's all I got. As far as the next episode of Fresh Cuts,
all right, Mike, you've done this 3 times already. You've picked terrible choices. I'm taking your privilege away. We're covering Suitable Flesh.
Oh, wait. For this show?
The one that's on Shudder. I think its release is Friday. It's the 26th, right?
Is that the Heather Graham one? Because I thought that was last year.
No, that was
It drops on Shudder Friday. We're watching that one. It's a good movie for once.
Oh.
No,
I know
the
Suitable
title?
Flesh.
That's weird.
Yeah. Yes. Suitable Flesh, the Heather Graham one, the H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. It drops.
Oh, that's not really new though. That came out last
Yeah, but it
summer.
drops on. But it drops on Shudder. So.
Yeah, but is it?
I guess
Shudder. I don't know if Shudder is the actual official first release though.
Well,
because if it was available.
Yeah, but we've covered films before that had releases, but we covered them for their Shudder release.
Yeah, which I always hated. I'll go on record as saying I'm not the biggest fan of that. I want these movies.
But was it still within the same calendar year though?
Yeah, because that's the thing. Suitable Flesh has already appeared on multiple podcasters' top 10s of 2023. It seems like it would be a little old to do now, especially because so many people are familiar with it.
I have seen it, and I did like it, but
spoiler alert! If we do it, I have a lot to say about it. I did not like it, but
I loved it.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the laziest H.P. Lovecraft adaptations ever. It's almost as lazy as The Outwaters. I didn't hate it. I shouldn't say I hated it. I didn't hate it. I gave it a middling score, but because I am a huge H.P. Lovecraft guy, I take my adaptations kind of seriously, and I was not the biggest fan of this one. Hey, I love looking at Heather Graham naked as much as any other guy, but that doesn't make it.
Well,
we'll discuss it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Whether we do it on Fresh Cuts or not, the 3 of us will at least be able to talk about it among. Because I don't know if Derek's seen it, but since the 3 of us have, we can definitely still talk about it on the main show too in the opening segment. So we'll figure it out.
That'll probably be recorded first anyway. So
yeah, that's Sunday. So yeah, that I think that's a better option.
Okay, I didn't know you guys felt that way. I loved it. So
love is a stretch. I was okay with it. I wasn't happy with the ending. I don't know. Just throwing a bunch of Lovecraftian names in a movie does not make it Lovecraftian to me, but I understand it is a direct adaptation. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Maybe I'll watch it again before Sunday before we talk about it. But yeah, I just remember walking away from it thinking, man, everybody loves this, and I just don't.
All right.
Yes, something to consider for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just say it's next episode of Fresh Cuts is up in the air, but we'll figure it out. There's actually a lot of stuff that seemed to hit Prime too, but we'll figure it all out. So thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Fresh Cuts. 2024 is off to not so hot year, but we're only a few weeks in.
Really?
So, half of January doesn't make a year, fortunately. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll be rebounding soon. But with that said, let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
How about you put some actual politics in your political slasher, you dipshit?
Yeah, try using the rated R rating in your kills next time. Peace.